Well, here we are, roughly 48 hours from kickoff, and we're going to break down in today's Lions Talk Live 5 reasons why we believe the Detroit Lions will win on Sunday. We're going to get into all those factors, break them down, analyze them for you, and maybe just a little bit more in today's Friday edition of Lions Talk Live. Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm your host, Dan Thornton. I want to thank you for tuning in this Friday to Lions Talk Live. And we're going to, like I said, give you a couple reasons to consider why we think the Detroit Lions have an opportunity to win this upcoming Sunday. I'm sure you're all aware we win this Sunday along with a Washington and Seattle loss. Hopefully Green Bay and also the New York Giants lose as well. Then the Lions are right back into the thick of having their own fate in their hands for the NFC final spot of the playoffs. But before we get into today's video, I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. If you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. It takes you about a second and a half to hit the subscribe button, maybe even the like button, and leave some interactive comments in the section below. But anyways, let's get into today's video. We're going to start with number 5 and work our way up to number 1. All right, the number 5 reason is going to start off with the coaching staff of the Detroit Lions. Obviously, everybody who's a Lions fan is still grumbling and mumbling over the performance of the defensive front, including the linebackers. And let's be fair, just the defense overall. Now, who are we going to put the blame on? Well, if you've been around sports for a while, you're going to start with the coach and then work your way to the players. I can't say that the Lions had a horrible game plan. I can't say that just the Panthers last week simply had a better game plan. Whatever it may be, Aaron Glenn is on the hot seat at this moment. His defense started off this season, I'm sure we all know, the first, we'll say, 7 games of the year being abysmal, beyond abysmal. But then the last 2 months happened, and we actually became fairly respectable. Didn't mean we were great at anything, but we were no longer the worst team in the NFL on the defensive side of the football. In fact, we became more of the middle of the pack, we'll say number 15, 14, 16, somewhere in that range. But all the goodwill over the last, we'll say, 2 months was shattered, broken, and thrown in the trash with how poorly our defense performed last week. Now, you're going to blame Aaron Glenn, you're going to blame the players, you're going to blame Dan Campbell. So, and yes, I get some of you guys are in comment on how I say it. It's just how I say it, so apologies about it. But anyway, whoever you're going to blame, whether it's MCDC, AG, or whoever, the fact of the line, sports are a result-based business. And if you're getting $800,000 a year to coach the defense, if you're getting $1 million to coach the entire team, whatever it may be, you understand a simple rule in collegiate or pro sports. There's a term that goes around that most coaches know all too well. You are hired to be fired. And Aaron Glenn has got a pivotal game this weekend. Can he resurrect the defense that we've seen really since the 8th game of the year until last week's game? If he can, Aaron Glenn is going to help salvage this season. He's also going to help keep his position in line with this team's future. But if 2 straight weeks of poor performances come to pass, then I can tell you this. No matter what happens in Green Bay, we're probably having conversations this offseason about Glenn's future in Detroit. Let's get on to number 4. All right, going on to reason number 4 is why we think the Lions have an opportunity to win in their home season finale of this season at Ford Field. And it's going to be simply this. It's going to be that of the running game for the Detroit Lions. We started off the year, I'm sure we all remember, big runs by DeAndre Swift in back-to-back weeks, hammering runs for short yardage with Jamal Williams. Whatever the factor is, we saw runs from Jackson and a multitude of people. Amon-Ra St. Brown on sweeps and pulls and things of that sort. The run game was something that forced defenses to defend it first and the pass second, which led to just great offensive performances by everybody at the start of the season. But over the last 4 weeks, the run game has quietly gone more and more south. It's become nearly invisible at times. And because of that, that's put a lot more pressure on the passing game, Jared Goff, the play action, whoever and whatever metrics you want to say. So I do believe the Lions are going to pull out a few different things this weekend, change a few things up schematically, especially with pulls. I talked about that in a video earlier this week. I do anticipate Evan Brown to be used more as a pulling guard as we run things out wide, and perhaps even Jonah Jackson, although I do like Brown's mobility more. With that also being said, I'm going to say the running game is going to extend into the passing game. I do believe DeAndre Swift is going to see the most touches he's seen in, nearly 3 months. I'm expecting him to see not just run plays called for him, but a lot of swing passes, screens, and things where he's curling out of the backfield and getting the ball. Not always on a handoff, but putting the ball in his hands and Jackson's hands. Nothing against Williams. I just don't think the catching game, the receiving game is much a strength for him as it is for potentially other backs on our roster. So that being said, I am really hopeful the Detroit Lions running game reemerges, including, like I said, swing passes or whatever it may be to the backs out of the backfield. But if we can get those two aspects going with the backs, then the play action is fair game, and we're going to be facing a Bears defense, which we've also noted this week, that isn't in its best shape. All right, reason number 3 as to why I think the Lions have a great opportunity to win Sunday against the Bears. Other than keeping, the motivation of the playoffs on the line for everybody, believing that, hey, we've got a chance to get in, we're going to say this. The Bears team as a whole is not in great physical shape right now. If you check out today's injury report, you're going to see that 2 of their better receivers are banged up and questionable. Their best receiver is out for this game. Their number 1 tight end in most metrics is also questionable for this game. You've got a couple offensive linemen on a not great offensive line that are also banged up. So the Lions are going to be facing the Bears at, let's be fair, about as idealistically a situation as possible. So Bears, they're beat up. Justin Fields, I'm sure most of you know, he's got a foot that's a little messed up, a shoulder that's a little messed up. He's not in the top shape that he could possibly be. So if the Lions are going to make this final push for the playoffs, they're going to have to use everything to their advantage. And let's be very upfront and honest. The lack of health overall in the Bears is as big a plus for us as perhaps any other time this season when we face an opponent. The Lions need to take full advantage of it. Yes, Deshaun Elliott's going to be out for us, but other than that, I don't really think there's any huge injuries for the Lions. All right, I got to spend all day on injuries. You guys probably get the point with that, so we're going to move on to reason number 2, and that's going to be the play of Jared Goff. Home and away, yes, his records have been pretty good, but his performance throwing the ball all over the place, and especially touchdowns at home, is noticeably more impactful than it is on the road. And some of it, let's be honest with everybody, some of it is the play calling has changed on the road versus home. Whether that's just the luck of the draw, who we're facing at those games, or whatever it may be, Goff has been a steady influence over this team throughout the season. If you watch him when he's talking in-game, post-game, or whatever it may be, his body language and his vocal inflections don't really change much. He's as cool hand Luke as he can be, and for a guy that was basically a cast-off and didn't even have anybody want him in LA, a lot of LA fans, if you check their websites and forums and such over the last year, are actually starting to bemoan the fact that they got rid of this guy. So their loss is clearly our gain. And excuse me for saying this, I was not a big Goff fan at the start of the year. I thought, we're probably replacing him for 2023. But if he finishes these 2 next games, and if we do make the playoffs, continues that trend, being where he is now, why would you replace him? Goff's metrics, let's talk about it. His QBR, he's one of the best in the NFL. He's taking care of the ball. Yes, I get the fumble last week, but who do you really charge that to? Ragnow or Goff? They're both saying, hey, it's on me. And that's what you want from a leader. You don't want the guy saying, nah, it's on the other guy. We've got one that's taking care of the ball, throwing and completing for a high percentage. Is it shown more of a deep threat passing game this year? Probably some of that is the receivers got healthy. But whatever it is, he's turned into a leader. The one knock everybody has on him is that, he's not much of a scrambler. But, hey, let's also be fair. He led the team in rushing last week with a long run of 15 yards. Unfortunately, none of our backs did something more than that. But whatever you can say, you're getting great value on this guy. And if he finishes this game like he has the rest of the season, Goff's proven himself to be the quarterback of the future, at least for the next, we'll say, 2 to 3 years. Another strong game against a beat-up Bears secondary and defense. And I can tell you what, not only might we get this win, but we're going to be setting up a huge playoff game in Green Bay against Aaron Rodgers, unless, of course, Rodgers and them lose this week. Then maybe we just get to try to seal up a playoff spot next week. All right, I'm going to cheat a little bit on this last one, reason number 1, and it's going to be this. The lines of the Detroit Lions, both offensively and defensively. The Bears have struggled to get pressure on a quarterback and consistent pressure throughout much of the season, but yet it's been egregiously bad during their 8-game losing streak. Last week was the first time they got a hit on a quarterback in over a month. Let that sink in. Quarterbacks have been sitting back and passing the ball around and not even getting a dry cleaning bill because their jerseys are clean. If the Detroit Lions line, which did not look great against Carolina, especially in the second half. First half, I can say this, I can live with their performance. Second half, especially that fourth quarter. But let's move on from that. If they can play how they have throughout all the season other than last week, then Goff and the running back should have a fairly good day against it. But now let's also talk about the defensive line. We all remember the first game of the year against Chicago in Chicago. Defensive line was out of position a lot, just like they were in the first game of the season against Philadelphia. So, with that being said, Aaron Glenn, who's under fire already for how the team performed last week, if he can dial up something that keeps Fields contained and gets pressure on him, forcing him to throw the ball under duress, the Lions are going to benefit from both of these lines playing peak game performance in a very pivotal matchup. About the defensive line, whoever you want to point out, somebody is going to have a breakout game. If you watched a couple of Lions Talk Live videos earlier this week, you are aware that I do think that we have a chance to see James Houston really do some damage. Yes, he did not play in the first game of the season against the Bears, but let's break down Houston's ability to simply bend, contort his body, and get around tackles. The Bears' tackles aren't bad, as far as the rest of their offensive line, but they're not great by any measures. If we can force Justin Fields into obvious passing situations, I think you're going to see a lot of heat put on Justin Fields from an emerging pass rushing ability from the Detroit Lions defensive line. And not just, Kaminsky and Houston, but you're going to see Aquara and everybody else get after him. So what I can say about this is if we're going to have a breakout game from this defensive line and re-emerge some belief in the fan base and media across the country, the Detroit Lions defense has really corrected itself, then this is the opportunity to do it. The Lions need to take full advantage of it because a huge win here, building up momentum into all intents and purposes, a showdown in Green Bay is exactly what the team needs. All right, I'm going to make it a long video today. I'm sure you guys are all aware on Saturdays we don't do Lions Talk Live. It's going to be New Year's Eve for anybody who really across the planet who celebrates it, I guess. If you're going to watch college football, this is going to be a great day for you to sit down and watch what should be 2 huge matchups. Whatever you're going to do tomorrow, I hope you all take care, stay safe, and enjoy it. I will be on Sunday after the completion of the game to do a post-game video. If you have any questions or thoughts, comments, ideas for something you'd like me to do next week or after Sunday's post-game video, whatever it may be, leave those thoughts in the comment section below. Also, if you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. Every subscription helps, every thumbs up helps, and comment in the section below. All these matrix really help the channel to grow. Hope you all have a great day. Wish you a great new year. And we'll see you Sunday on another Lions Talk Live. Take care.